Got a fun review today, and PlayOn sent me the latest Atari 7800 releases for their Atari 2600 Plus and Atari 7800 Plus platform, but these can be played on original Atari 7800. So, you know what's pretty awesome? They sent me a press kit, pretty sweet here, and they sent me like a locked media kit. That's cool. Unlocked 1982, so obviously the code is 1982, and it's pretty sweet that they sent this press kit. And these are available. You can go to Atari's website, or you can go to Amazon. The affiliate links are below, where you can check these new releases out. $34.99 a piece, and they are boxed and they look similar to the original releases, but there are subtle differences on packaging. I'm going to show that, as I have the original 3 releases that came out for the Atari 7800 back in the day, and nearing that 40-year mark. That's crazy. So yes, pretty awesome here. And it's Galaga, Pac-Man double feature, which is a new version of Pac-Man, Dig Dug, and Xevious. So here's Galaga, and these are the PAL box releases. So I have the NTSC 7800 boxes for the original, so I'm comparing them. Subtle differences there. And looks pretty close though, pretty awesome. And so the original, if you didn't know, here in the States, original 7800 games typically had a black and white label and manual. Some had a color label, some of the later releases, but yeah, the originals didn't. So Atari's gone back and working with Namco licensed products, by the way, and full color manual now, which is nice to see that, and just well done at an affordable price. So again, these are compatible with the 2600 Plus, 7800 Plus, and original Atari 7800. And so pretty awesome to see that. And so I'm not going to be showing these games in original 7800 as their PAL. And so anyways, I'm showing the NTSC footage for Galaga, as the PAL cartridge I do believe runs a little bit slower, at least it did for me. So but yeah, awesome arcade conversion, and this was a launch title, I do believe, for the Atari 7800, but it has all the bells and whistles from the arcade classic here. There's also DLC content you can get for the Atari 50th. That's the collection on modern platforms. If you want to check out this release in like a digital form on modern platforms, and I covered that on my channel if you're curious about that. I'll add that to an attached video to this video. Anyways, fantastic release, and I'm a big fan of Galaga, and nice to see that Atari is releasing physical cartridges. Do you know that well over, I think 85% of physical releases are disappearing? So that's really sad. This is Pac-Man double feature, and this is an interesting release. So this is taking the new Pac-Man arcade version programmed by Robert De Crescenzo, a friend of mine, and combining it with the 2600 version of Pac-Man, which you're all gonna have an opinion of that, whether you love it or hate it or grew up with it. And so it's a simple dip switch selection, and you can change from playing the amazing arcade version release or playing the, I would say at this point, the fairly dreaded version of the 2600 version. But you know what? Back in the day it was amazing. But there's just so many other ways of playing Pac-Man now. But this is amazing. So Robert De Crescenzo took all the bells and whistles of Pac-Man and squeezed it into a version. There's random mazes. You can speed it up, and it's simply fantastic. And so this is it running, and this is the sped up version, which I find more enjoyable to play. But I am better at playing the standard traditional version of Pac-Man. So you play it the way you want, but Pac-Man celebrating 45 years. Can't believe that. Such an iconic mascot. Here is a traditional version of Pac-Man here with the traditional arcade mazes. And you know what? You play it the way that you want. And it's a fantastic release and really awesome that Atari was able to work with Namco and get the Pac-Man license so they can offer these. As you know what, and there's other people that are wanting to know, where's Miss Pac-Man, where's Pac-Man Jr.? That's owned by somebody else, so that's why it's not included here. Here is the 2600 release. You know what, and it may be very nostalgic for people out there going back and playing this. And I know those sounds. We've heard, how many times have we heard those on TV shows, in the Namco DLC content for Atari 50? They talk about that. It's pretty fascinating backstory. But yeah, pretty cool to see it at least offered here. As you know what, there's going to be people that want to play this, and you may not have a game store in your area that sells used Pac-Man carts. But yeah, pretty cool that you can play a new version of Pac-Man alongside with the original. Here's Dig Dug, and Dig Dug's kind of an overlooked classic, another release for the original Atari 7800 back in the day, a launch title. I really like Dig Dug, and it's got an interesting premise and pretty interesting commercials back in the day too. But yeah, here's the original release with the PAL box version, at least. I picked up original cart there. I have a sealed original release. So what's cool about Atari is they are all including these box games with their own individual little sleeves. That's a cool new feature, and it kind of distinguishes it versus the original, especially with color labeled. Nice job on that too. And so for that $34.99 price point, I think that's a good price. If you want to get an actual physical release, I think for full color manual and cardboard box release, you might want to think about it. I know a lot of people are starting to collect 2600 and 7800 as it's on the market now. Pretty awesome that Atari's doing this and supporting physical media releases. So here's Dig Dug, and I'm not the best player, as this game can get challenging very fast, but I enjoy it. I enjoy this release. I am a fan of Dig Dug. I probably like Dig Dug now more than I ever have. Even the original 2600 release isn't bad. But yeah, just wanted to show some gameplay. There's many stages, pretty challenging. Pretty interesting premise too, where you're like pumping your enemies full of air until they explode. That's pretty interesting. I guess it's probably the most violent of all the games I'm showing. But, classic arcade gameplay here. And I know many people are going to remember this. Great game. Now, this one is one of my best friend's favorite games of all time. And it's Xevious. And here is the NTSC box versus the new PAL box version, which they sent in the media kit. A multi-language release. Artwork is close, but it is different. I like that it has changed a little bit. And there's that black and white original label on cart versus the new release, which I am grateful that they're doing. I'm definitely curious why Pole Position wasn't released. I'm sure it was a licensing issue, but maybe they have future ideas for that, as I know that Pole Position was also offered on the Atari 7800. So it'd be nice to see that. But here's back to Xevious, and Xevious, in my opinion, is a better version than the NES release. It's more traditional arcade 1-to-1 and no flicker. So the thing about the Atari 7800 and the advantages of the Atari 7800, because you could have a long debate over what was more capable, Atari 7800 versus NES. And I'm a huge NES fan. But the Atari 7800 was able to offer a multitude of sprites on the screen without flicker. And it does certain things very well. There's other things that it struggles with, but I'm a big fan of the Atari 7800 release of Xevious. I've grown to appreciate this game a lot more as time has gone on. I know my best friend, like he said, this is just one of his favorite games of all time. He's a huge fan of this version, and it's well done. I'm really glad to see it join the Atari 2600 Plus and 7800 Plus library, and they're offering it on physical cart release. Pretty fantastic. Anyways, what do you think of these releases? The affiliate link below where you can get these on Amazon. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care.